Well, first of all, once you get past the Buster Douglas upset of Mike Tyson, it definitely is one of the top heavyweight upsets of all time, no doubt about it. You know, you're talking about Lewis against Rockman. You're talking about Joshua getting knocked out by Andy Ruiz. Obviously, you mentioned well, as I just said, the
McCall,
big one, of course, is Tyson. McCall is a big one. I don't know if it rises to the same level. Lennox was not an
Leon
established
Spinks
champion.
beats Muhammad
Yeah,
Ali. Correct.
that's the
Yep.
one I
Yep.
was thinking of. Ali and Spinks for sure. So it's on the level like that. Um, and the thing is, it threw such chaos into the sport because the idea was after that fight, then there was going to be a real movement to make the Tyson versus Lennox Lewis fight, which obviously ended up happening ultimately, but it got put off for a while they went through all the litigation and all the nonsense about forcing the rematch with Rockman because Rockman tried to back out of it and switch promoters, and he signed with Don King and turned down the HBO money. And we could go. I mean, I could talk about this for an hour, which we don't
Well,
have.
to boil it down, Rockman was trying to fight Mike Tyson. He was trying not to give
That's
Lewis
the
the
point.
rematch. He was eventually trying to fight Mike Tyson instead, and we got the courts involved. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Lennox Lewis, the bottom line was Lennox Lewis took him to federal court and he won. He didn't win. You can't force the man to fight you. But what he won was the judge basically told Rockman, you either fight the rematch that you signed for in the contract with Lennox Lewis, or you must sit. I believe it was for 16 or 18 months. And if Rockman sits 18 months after that knockout, he gets stripped of the title, and his career goes down the toilet. And there's no real way to make the money or follow up and have the leverage that you did as your champion. Anyway, but the main thing was it was a thunderbolt of a right hand that just knocked him out. And I've told the story before. My greatest pick of all time in a boxing match of picking Lennox to lose that fight, and the reason why is because 2 weeks beforehand we were in Vegas. I was covering Nassim Hamed against Marco Antonio Barrera, and the MGM Grand Garden Arena that was the host of that fight was also used as the backdrop for the fight scenes that were filmed for the famous movie Ocean's 11, where
That's
the
right.
bank heist happens during the boxing match. The boxing match was a mock fight between Lennox Lewis and Vladimir Klitschko. I had gone to Vegas early to be on the set because I was doing besides covering Barrera and Hamed, we sort of were trying to kill two birds with one stone. The Klitschkos were there. They had not yet made their names in the United States. So I was sent to cover and do a big piece. It was really like the first big newspaper story about the Klitschko brothers in the American media. So I had already done, obviously arranged this well ahead of time. I basically spent an entire day with the Klitschko brothers. Part of that day meant Rafael was on the set hanging out with Julia Roberts and George. Not really, I'm joking about that, but I saw them anyway. But I was on the set with the Klitschkos, and we were in their trailer, and I watched the fight scenes, and I've got my movie prop credential for the fight that I have hanging up in my office. Anyway, so the point is this: Lennox Lewis was there filming Hollywood movie scenes 2 weeks or 3 weeks before he's supposed to be fighting, a heavyweight championship defense. Emmanuel Stewart, the great man, was there with him and also wasn't really into the fight either. But what put me over the edge on the pick was going back to go walk to meet up with the Klitschkos and their manager, and you walk past like the little cafeteria area, and I was going to grab something to drink, and there was people hanging out, and I see Lennox Lewis sitting there eating like a bag of Doritos, basically. I'm like, the man is not training for a boxing match. And so, then
we
the Saturday
are not
morning,
focused. Continue.
okay.
Yes.
So now Saturday morning of the Barrera versus Hamed fight, they're having all the media is there to cover the fight. So they have a press conference for Lennox Lewis and Rockman. And they had a dais and everything set up on the concourse at the MGM. And they brought a big giant TV, and they had Rockman join the press conference via satellite from South Africa. And I realized, oh shit, Rockman's already been in South Africa for like 3 weeks already. He's been training at 6,000 feet. He's just looks like he's in unbelievable shape. He's talking a great game. And Lennox is looking a little plump and eating Doritos and filming a movie, and his trainer doesn't seem to give a shit. And I'm like, this is like classic. There's no fucking way he's going to win this fight. He's not focused at all. He wants to be a movie star, and Rockman is fighting for his life. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? I think he's going to win. And sure enough, he didn't look good the first few rounds, but then he landed the right hand, and as you say, boom goes the dynamite, and out goes Lennox Lewis. So, but that when that happened, I can still remember Rockman running around the ring, screaming at the top of his lungs, "No more Lewis and Tyson." And what made it so kind of a weird situation is because we're watching in the United States, at 10, 11 o'clock at night as a live HBO broadcast. So that was designed for American prime time, which meant the fight was taking place at about 5 o'clock in the morning, South Africa time. Now, as a coincidence, one of my dearest friends in the world
Yep. You've told us.
from high school she and her husband had relocated from the United States to do like, I don't know, like a year or two assignment. They worked for a pharmaceutical company and they were reassigned for this project. They were living in South Africa, in Johannesburg. And they had moved there probably about 2 or 3 weeks prior to the fight. And I had been talking to one of the managers for Hasim Rahman, who I was friendly with, doing some kind of story or whatever, and we were shooting the shit. And he was joking around about like how nobody is picking us. We're all by ourselves there. He like they gave us a bunch of tickets and we don't have anybody to give them to. I guess that as part of your contract, they got maybe like a dozen tickets or something like that. He's like, we got nobody. And he basically was like, I think he was joking. He says, "Do you know anybody that wants to go to the fight?" He said, "It's funny you say that. I have like very close
Right.
friends of mine who just moved, and I never get involved with tickets. It's just not the right thing to do." But they just had nothing to do with these tickets at all. He's like, so I told him the story. I said, I have one of my best friends just moved with her husband to South Africa, like literally last week. He's like, "Do they want to go to the fight?" And I didn't think they did because these
They're
friends of
not
mine,
fight fans either.
they're straight out fight fans. They're not even sports fans. Like they don't even basketball, football. Like as the old saying goes, wouldn't know a left hook from a fish hook. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask. So I got in touch with my friend. I said, let me run this by you. There's a heavyweight boxing championship fight that's going to take place at this casino that's probably on the outskirts of where you're living. They lived in a very nice, kind of western area of Johannesburg. I said, "Are you interested to go?" She's like, "That might be a lot of fun. We've never been to a sports thing before. We've never been to a fight. Why not?" So I explained to her, I said, "Listen, just so you know, it's not going to be like at 7 o'clock at night. It's going to be at like 4 o'clock in the morning." She's like, that was even more enticing and interesting to them. So I got them hooked up and they got 2 tickets and they went to the fight at this like Carnival City or whatever it was called, this casino and on the outskirts of Johannesburg. And I remember, never forget this, is I'm sitting in my living room, we're in my old townhouse in Northern Virginia. I'm watching the fight and she calls me from her seat in the arena.
While the fight is going on.
While the fight is, and I hear the noise in the background, and I'm like, well, "What's going on?" She's like, "We're having a great time. Who's winning?" Like it's a score, like it's 5-4. It's a touchdown. It's 7-0. I'm like, no. You have no idea who's winning until they either announce the scores or you see a guy get knocked out. So that was like a joke.
Did you say until you see a guy get knocked out? Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. So now the fight ends, and obviously Lennox Lewis gets drilled, and Rahman becomes the champ, and it's like a whole big thing. And so, I don't know, a couple hours later, they're on the way home, and they call from the car, and I'm like they had a wonderful time, and it was very exciting, and it was sort of like imagine if you've never been to that kind of event, you see the heavyweight title change hands. So I was trying to explain to her the historical element of what she had just seen of the heavyweight title, not only changing hands, but in such a sort of an unusual atmosphere of being in the morning in South Africa and what it meant and how big of a historical situation this was. And she just ate that up. Her husband had a great time. And it was like just a quirky little thing that is just a coincidence of a lifetime that they never even got rid of their allotment of tickets. I think they just had a bunch of tickets left over they couldn't do anything with. So that was, I have so many like crazy memories about that whole thing. And then going to the office at USA Today on the Sunday, because we worked on Sunday because we didn't publish on the weekend, but we worked for Sunday to publish for Monday, of writing basically an extensive story about all the stuff that had gone on and how Rahman was out of contract with Cedric Kushner because he didn't give him the bonus in time before the fight, but he tried to give it to him after the fight, and all the machinations of now he's going to try to make this Mike Tyson fight. What a wild time in boxing, man. Wild time.